Hi, back to talk with you more about self-esteem. And today I want to focus on mistakes because we all make them. But yet, why is it so hard to admit or to process the idea that we've made a mistake? Mistakes are actually an opportunity for learning and growth, but it's really hard to see them that way. I want you to start to think about mistakes differently. I want you to see mistakes as a path to greatness. For instance, Bill Gates dropped out of Harvard and he went on to be super successful. The gentleman who opened Macy's department store had 7 failed businesses before Macy's was successful. Walt Disney was told by one of his teachers that he was unimaginative and didn't have good ideas. Albert Einstein didn't speak until he was 4 years old, and they assumed that he had a learning disability. And we all know that Thomas Edison failed numerous times before his experiments were successful. So mistakes are really a path to greatness. What we found in this idea of self-esteem and mistakes is that the higher the stakes are emotionally, financially, the higher the stakes are, the harder it is to admit to a mistake. So why is that? Well, it's this theory that they call dissonance, which means there's a conflict between what you believe and what you're being presented with. That's dissonance. And so what happens actually in our brain, physically in our brain, when we are told something that goes against what we believe or what we hold to be true, your brain shuts down. And they've proved this on an MRI machine. And when you're told something that is in agreement with your beliefs, your brain lights up. We don't like to be wrong. Our brain shuts down when we think we're wrong. So there's actually something physical going on that makes it really hard to admit to your mistakes. And like I said, the higher the stakes, the more we stick to what we think we believe. I want to give you an example of this. A guy has an older car, we'll call him Nick. And Nick has a fairly decent car, but he gets it in his brain that he wants a new, more sporty car. And so as he begins to think about why he should get rid of a perfectly okay car to get a sportier, better, newer car, he starts to come up with a list of reasons. The car he has isn't safe. It doesn't have airbags, and a newer car would have airbags. He drives his daughter to school every day. So the safety of his car is of utmost importance. And he's actually doing his daughter a disservice by driving her to school every day in an older car that doesn't have the technology of a newer car. And over time, he convinces himself that it's a good idea to buy the new car. Once he buys the new car, he's going to hold to those justifications that he made even stronger because now he already did the thing and he can't go back on it necessarily. That's dissonance. It's when something that we hold, what we want to be true, we will back to the ends of the earth to make it true. One of the classic examples of this is from a book called When Prophecy Fails. There's a woman named Mrs. Keach who told folks that the end of the world was coming and it was going to come on a specific day at a specific time, and that she and her disciples would be saved and flown away to safety with aliens. And believe it or not, she had a number of very loyal followers who believed this with her. And so this was a classic example of dissonance. And so there's a group of researchers who actually researched this group of people and how they held on to that belief and how they came to believe that. And of course, the day came and went when the world was supposed to come to an end, and it didn't come to an end. And what was really interesting was that her most avid followers still followed her. Now, keep in mind, these folks actually emptied out bank accounts, gave away belongings, said goodbye to relatives because they believed that the end of the world was coming. And when it didn't, you would think that they would say, "Oh, bummer. Can I have my car back?" But no, they did not. they actually clung even tighter to their belief that she indeed had some message and that she knew what was going on. And in fact, what she told them was that they had been so faithful in their beliefs that they staved off the end of the world. That's dissonance. That is embedded in your brain. So it's not a matter of being an honest or a dishonest person when you won't admit that you used the last little bit of paper in the copy machine. Or when you can't admit to something else on a larger scale, like maybe you shouldn't have bought that new sports car and it might have been a waste of money. That's when dissonance comes into play, and it's very closely connected to our self-esteem. Tomorrow I'm going to share with you a little bit more about this theory and about how you can take charge of how you handle mistakes in your life.